What up? It's the Dropping Dimes podcast. I'm your host, Mark Veer, and welcome again to episode number 10 with tournament runners Mark Ochoa, Mike Daniel. Fellas, how we doing?
Doing well.
It's a phenomenal, beautiful day. We woke up this morning, so I'm grateful for that.
Well, I appreciate you both hopping on. I know this is a redo, so we'll jump into the tournament space. We kind of led up to all that, but I do want to start with some intros, how I've kind of met both of you. Mark, we met back in 2010 with your AAU program, Sun Devils, with my Admirals. That's when we first kind of met each other. And then Mike, we met through the referee space. You started, I think, 1 or 2 years after me. So we've known each other a long time. So again, I appreciate you both coming on. This is a interesting topic. A lot of people want to know some answers, and I think we can educate some folks as well about the tournament space. And a lot of people don't know what goes on behind the scenes. But before we do that, let's just talk about how you guys got into running tournaments and where you are today. So Mark, I'll start with you. How did you get into running tournaments?
Well, once again, thanks for having us on. We met in 2010, a team called the Sun Devils. We have a joint family. I have 3 boys on that team. We got stationed back in San Antonio in 2010, and we picked up a lot of kids around the local community, around Stevens High School, and picked up some other kids around the McCollum area. From then, we started getting fairly strong in the South Texas area, decided that we would travel across the state of Texas, which we did. And then from there, we opted to go to Bigfoot in Vegas, where we competed. It was a good experience for those inner city kids that we had. And once I got back from that tournament, talked over my wife and say, hey, there's some things that we saw this travel year, some pros and some cons. I think it could bring a little bit of more structure to some of the tournaments that were here in San Antonio. So in 2016, we kicked off full court athletics. When I retired from active duty in 2018, that's all I've done since is thrown tournaments, full court athletics, along with myself and Lupita Seguda. We throw 18 to 20 tournaments in the San Antonio area annually.
Nice, thanks. Mike, how did you get into the tournament space over at the Sportsplex?
I was hoodwinked and bamboozled into this life, man. My guru and mentor and brother of life, Thomas Brown, got me into this. It started with me running my follow-through organization in the Sportsplex, and then it led to, hey, Mike, I want you to go start assisting me, with this basketball piece. Then to, hey, Mike, I'm going to be selling the building soon, and when I'm gone, they're going to need a basketball guy. And so he groomed me from top to bottom to this life. And, basketball is life. I love the game. And so that's how I got into the tournament running, the league running, and then just staying around the youth of San Antonio with the game of basketball. So thank you, Tom Brown, and thank you to all the coaches and mentors that have provided guidance, during this little journey of mine. I've only been doing this since 2021, so still learning, still growing. But thank you to all that have provided a piece of feedback or info to just help me be better with the tournaments that we run at the Sportsplex.
Nice. Yeah, I appreciate you both saying that. And I still talk to Tom Brown every once in a while. I'm trying to get him on the podcast. I'm trying to get Tom and Ben Hart to come on, and just from a facility owners, I think a lot of people don't understand what it takes to run a facility. Mike, you got a taste of that with Tom, and of course I've been over here for a long time. A lot of stuff that people don't know about. All right, so let's dive into pricing for your events. Mike, we'll start with you. I know you guys are very similar on it, but just talk about pricing for your events, from entry fees to 1-day, 2-day tournaments. I know, Mike, you stay away from the 2 days, to admission fees, and then we'll just kind of dive into every aspect of what you are charging and then the expenses as well. So let's start there on your pricing, Mike.
So the pricing right now per team per tournament is $200. If you come in with 2 teams, you get a multi-team discount with $180, and then the lowest rate that we go is $160. And of course, there are situations and extenuating circumstances where we may have to go to $1.25. Some Thursday night, Friday night situations where we have to go free, right? Because, last minute drops after schedule's published, and that happens. But theoretically, between $200 and $160 is the baseline. I'll let everybody know now, in 2025, it's going to go up $10, and that baseline is going to move to $170 to $210. We didn't just make up a number as far as that, as far as the entry fee for parents. Entry fee for parents is $20. If you're high school and above, you're considered an adult, so that's $20 rate. And then between 1st and 8th grade, you get the $10 rate. And then everything below 1st grade is free. There's a formula, like I know Mark Ochoa is big on that formula. He actually helped me with that formula, with doing a real thorough breakdown of what's needed in order to actually make money, because we're not trying to rob anybody with this. but it is a business. And at the end of the day, we are trying to make money from it, So there is a formula that we have figured out, and there's a good estimate on what we know each team should bring. And that's kind of where we put the baseline of the pricings is, again, to make sure that, that there is money being made at the end of it, because it is a business at the end of the day.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I know your 1 day is similar, but you do 2 day events. So kind of talk to everybody about your pricing for a 2 day event.
Yeah, so for a 2 day event, which is a four game guarantee, but teams can play up to 6 games, the price point in San Antonio for the last couple of years has been $295. So it's a 2 day event with 4 games guarantee. The pricing at the door is a day pass for an adult is $20. A student is $10. If you have a weekend pass for adults, we do it's $35, $5 off. You have to buy a weekend pass. The student rate is just $10 a day.
Okay. We talked a little bit on the last podcast. Let's bring it up because I put some little snippets out there from that. Talk to me about the formula. I think it's a good formula, like Mike touched on, that you came up with the formula. Educate people how you come up with those certain price points based on, obviously, your expense and everything else you have going on.
Yeah, with a 3 game 1 day event. So the actual operating cost to host one team for a 3 game 1 day event is $245. That kind of broken down encompasses gym time, awards, referees, scorekeepers, team insurance, exposure, the app we use to publish events, ref scheduling, and support staff. So just to host that one team, they may sign up $245. That's without even including if we add a trainer. If we add a trainer, then that cost goes up to about $261 per team. So the operating cost for a 3 game 1 day is very high. So therefore, we kind of use the gate to kind of offset the operating costs. Operating costs are truly high. Going into most tournaments, tournament directors are in the red. We're so dependent on that gate for spectators to come through. So we don't have a loss. Without spectators, we'd have lost to operate these tournaments.
Yeah, I know we talked last podcast. I was educated. I had no idea how expensive these gyms, Mission Concepcion, Alamo Sportsplex, $90 per court. I mean, it used to be when I used to run tournaments back in the day with Tom Brown, $50, $60 maybe. And if you got more courts, you get a discount. I wrote down some numbers last night. I had to. I couldn't get around my head. I just couldn't. So I put it down and say, hey, I'm running a tournament. I wanted to know what it looked like. It's scary how much money you guys are spending, thousands and thousands of dollars before, like you said, before you got anybody in the door. I think that's the biggest problem. Now, I don't know how we tackle that, right? If people are asking for cheaper entry fees, the admissions need to go down. Well, it's these facilities, man. Charging that amount of money is doubled probably over the last, I don't know how many years. So my question to you, we'll start with you, Mike, is there any talks about getting that price lowered? Or is that just what we're stuck with and you're going to have to increase prices on other places in your tournament?
So no, there's no prices of lowering, economics, supply and demand, and all that good stuff. Our owner of the Sportsplex, Edward Dahl, he's got to keep that building up and running. And there's no talk of lowering those rates and those prices. That's one of those above my pay grade levels, right? When you're talking about, that stuff. But I know, like you just talked about it being scary. You think it's scary when you put it on paper. You ought to see me when I'm doing my projections, like when I'm getting back to the office. Like I put in all the team registrations and like that income, right, comes in. It looks great. And then you go fill in your gatekeeper, your refs, the awards, security, the gym, right? And then you look down at that bottom number and like, hey, what happened? And so it is scary, And so when a team drops on you and you end up losing a team in a division and have a forfeit or something, you still got to take care of those refs. Like people don't understand. A forfeit hurts us for a number of reasons. When a team drops, Mark, we have to refund the teams that didn't get their third game. And not only refunding those teams that didn't get their third game, we still got to take care of the refs that showed up that day to work. It's not their fault the team didn't show up, right? And so, you talked about the gym. I don't know, man. I don't know if there's a way. Maybe there's something I could sit down and play with numbers, being an accountant, and see if there's a way to still function without it. Who knows, to help on things. But right now, your question, is there talks of lowering gym rate? No.
Just to put it into context, the events that we hosted this year, the lowest tournament that we held full court, the operating cost was $26,000. That was for 3 game 1 day, and then getting into a 2 day tournament, our operating cost was $83,000 for the weekend. That's just to operate it. Those numbers are crazy. But like Mike said, I've talked to other facility owners or operators, and the number's not coming down. The rental right prices, if not getting higher into 2025.
Yeah, I just think Mission should do a scale based on how many floors you use, right? I think that would be fair. If you're using 2 or 4 floors, I get it. But if I'm able to use all 6 floors, then maybe it goes from 90 to 75. You know what I mean? But
Mission does have in tournament rates, but the tournament rate is $90. So if you're not using X amount of course for X amount of hours, you're not getting that $90 an hour. In fact, it's high.
that's scary. And I appreciate you guys saying that. I think a lot of people are going to be like, wow, okay. And it is, we're trying to educate people, right? So a lot of people complain about the prices that you guys are putting forward. I thought they were excessive. I'll be honest with you. And then when it come to find out, we have these conversations, real talks, and find out what's going on in the back end. I understand why those prices have to be that high. But I appreciate you guys being transparent and honest about that. Let's talk about referees. I put some snippets out there already. Cody Cowgill hit me up last night and was like, yo, I don't agree with what you're saying on referees need to get paid 30. He doesn't agree on tier systems. Great. You know me, I love real conversations. I got no problem having these type of conversations. And I'm not expecting everybody to agree with what I say. Of course, referees would agree, but then people that run tournaments, I know Cody runs a few every once in a while per year. So referee pay, Mark, we'll start with you. Let's talk about what you pay. And is it based on the game format? Is it different scale, or is it running clock, stop clock? Talk to us about how you pay your officials.
So the rate that we set to pay our officials is based on the game format. If it's a 50-minute running clock, we do pay our referees $25. If it's a stop clock, which full court seeks to start every hour, the referee pay is $27. So we're at 25 and 27, and it's been like that for maybe the last year or so.
Okay. Mike, do you have anything different on referee pay? I think you guys work together a lot and try to be very consistent with all your fees at the door and how you're paying referees.
That is accurate. The same way I got the model price points from Mark. Mark gets the referee model from me. And I'll tell you, after our last conversation, I know I was adamant about the tiering and whatnot, but then I talked to a couple of my guys, Reggie, Marshall, Ralph Turner. I asked them, like, what do you guys think about this? And then I thought about what you said when you run the Ray Caldwell tournaments. And so Ray Caldwell, when he structures those tournaments, he puts that one division on that one court. And so I thought to myself, well, what if I could use this as some kind of motivation and incentive for referees, right? Like if I take a 4-team high school division and they play all on that one court, which a couple of teams are going to have a back-to-back in there, which is fine because there are some events and showcases where they play back-to-back. It's not going to hurt anybody, not going to harm anybody. And to where, like, if you're, let's just say the West Court at the Sportsplex, how do I get up to the North Court? Right, where that's the prime time action, North Court, East Court. And so I started thinking about that and how I could do that. And I mean, I think it's possible to do the tiering, but it would still fall along the same lines of the way UIL does it. Varsity gets a rate, JV freshmen get a rate, middle school 8-minute, middle school 7-minute, middle school 6-minute get a rate, and then, running clock gets a rate. And so I think maybe not necessarily tiering referees individually, but tiering the divisions, but scheduling where those divisions are on that court and a certain class of referee are handling those divisions to where the other referees are going to start picking up, hey, I'm never on North Court, I'm never on East Court, I never have high school, you know what I'm saying? So listening to what you said and figuring where could be the compromise and also help to better, because that official that's always on West Court is going to eventually figure out, I've always got the 5th grade and below games. You know what I'm saying? And so now when they come to me, hey, Mike, how can I get to North or East? Well, and then we start having those conversations, which is now going to better the referee environment, which is overall going to better the basketball, for these tournaments in San Antonio.
Yeah, I appreciate you touching on that. And you did call me and we had a conversation. So I love where this podcast is going, is starting conversations. That's all we really care about. But to add some context, because people were unable to listen to the last one that we had some issues with the mic. So I just want to talk about what the tier system is. The tier system, basically what we talked about was paying referees different pricing based on their experience and skill set. So what I used to do with Ray Caldwell's tournament is The North Court at the Sportsplex would be his top NBA division, college coaches on the baseline. Those would be your highest paid, most experienced referees, the showcase court. And then on the other courts, if he had middle school games, lower level high school games, those would be the lower level referees getting paid 25, the top getting paid 30. So it would average out anywhere from 27 to 28 per game, which is basically like paying everybody 27. Now, the issue with that tournament was that he had a lot of games on that North Court, a lot. So he ended up paying a little bit more. And again, Ray, if you're listening, don't quote me, but I want to say he paid about $2,000 more for that tournament. Ray doesn't use me anymore, and I understand why, because that's what I stay true to, right? That tournament needs quality referees because how good it is. You got 40 Division I coaches on the baseline. You're going to need quality referees, and you're going to need 3 of them. But he decided not to use me again, and I understand it. It's a business. Like you guys said, he doesn't want to take that hit on referees for his bottom line. I have no hard feelings about that, and I totally understand it. But that was the tier system we were talking about. I know it can work, but again, it's also going to be some extra fees on the tournament director, which is obviously very tough right now based on what we talked about earlier with how much the expenses are. So I wanted to add some context to that. Mike did call me and trying to figure out ways that it possibly could happen. And that's all we're trying to do is just, hey, everybody trying to make some changes. If it works, great. If not, I think the city's going to really enjoy that and appreciate all these entities trying to improve. And I talked about this on the last podcast with you guys. Booman said it on the very first episode. If we don't believe San Antonio has a problem, that is the problem. And I think you two work together. You understand the tournament space does need some work. You guys work hard at what you do. I think you're on board to make some improvements. So I appreciate that. So next referee question. Mark, we can start with you, is we call them the weekend warriors. A weekend warrior is defined as official that is not in a association and they just work on the weekends and they want to work as many games as possible. And we always joke about it. I said it with Kenny and Raphael, the one that shows up with the lawn chair and their ice bucket and they're ready to rock and roll all day for 10 hours, right? And they're out there. And some tournaments allow them to do that. Talk to me about weekend warriors. Do you have them in your events?
So we do have an assigner for each event. We ask for certified referees. There's some weekends that there may be a shortage of certified referees, so we do have to tap into that weekend warrior. But some of those weekend warriors, like you said, may not be assigned to a chapter here in the San Antonio area, but they may have been a military member, relocated, and they were in a chapter in a different state. So we do kind of vet that weekend warrior and see what their experience may be. But there's very few at an event because we strive to have certified referees. But like I said, some of those may be just people that relocated and are not assigned to a local chapter.
A question for you, Mark. How do you, when you work your assigner, how many games are they able to work per day? Do y'all have a cap on that?
Usually don't want them working no more than 8. If there is an 8, there must be a break set in. There must be an hour or a game or 2 break, or we send them to a different gym. So there's no referees that are working 8 to 10 games straight. So definitely we when I get the ref schedule, I vet it, kind of see what referees assigned to what court. Like, oh, this individual is maybe not high school caliber, so therefore we'll make changes with the assigner. But the referee schedule does get vetted. If there's individuals under that maybe we had a bad experience with, and say, hey, I can't use that individual this weekend. So therefore, they do have long days. There is a shortage of referees, but we always make sure that there's some type of break set in there.
Okay, appreciate it. I know you touched on the last podcast. You work very close with your assigner that gets the referees. And again, you're boots on the ground. You're at every tournament. And if it's a referee you don't know, you're obviously going to get eyes on them and communicate. So that's good. I'm glad you're doing that. Mike, I know you assign your referees at your tournament. So talk about the weekend warriors if you have them and kind of where you guys are with in that space.
So just like Mark, yes, I do work very closely with the referee assigner for the tournaments at the Sportsplex.
That would be you.
So here's how I do it. Typically, a perfect day in a tournament has 12 games. And so I try my best to do 3 waves, 4-4-4, right? You come in, do 4 games, right? Next shift, 4 games, next shift, 4 games. Now, weekend warriors, they try to fight me. I can count on less than on one hand how many guys I would ever actually allow to do 8 straight. And it's because we have an expectation and they uphold it. And like I said, it's only like 3 guys that I would ever allow to do 8 straight. But theoretically, the way that I do it is if it's a game of 12 and you won 8 games, you got to work for it, you got to sit for it, and then I'll let you come back and do that last 4. So like this weekend, Saturday's got 15 games on the day. Those guys that want to 10, you work 5, you sit 5, and then you can come back and close and do that last 5. I've lost referees because I won't give them the 8, 9, 10 straight, let them be on the court all day. And you want to know what? I'm okay with that, because I know mentally what it does to you.
Yeah, I think you two do a great job with your referees. I don't think you two are the problem. I think it's like you said, Mike, well, I'm going to go work somewhere else. Where is that somewhere else? That somewhere else, it should be nowhere in the city. Let's be real, right? If tournament directors work together and say, hey, my referees are not going to work more than 4 and 5 games. You want to come back later? Absolutely. I got you. You can work 8 to 10 games, but there's got to be a break. I hear it all the time from coaches, from fans. They see the referee at 8 o'clock, and then they see the same referee at 5 o'clock on the same court. That frustrates everybody, players, fans, coaches, and they're walking the whole time because no referee can work 8, 10 games and be running up and down. There's just no way. So I feel it's a city problem. I don't think it's a full court athletics or Alamo City sports problem. I think it's that other tournament directors are allowing it. And of course, if you have that opportunity for the referee, what the weekend warrior going to do? Oh, you guys only giving me 4. Yo, I'm going to take the 8 over there. I get it. They're trying to make as much money as they can on the weekend. So I feel just bringing this to light, other tournament directors listening, they need to jump on board with this. And then we'll touch on certified officials, right? I know you both agree with it. I'm not even going to ask you that question. The question would be, though, is who, and I'll start with you, Mark, we agree that all referees need to be certified. Who's going to do the work? Because it's a good idea. Everybody agrees on it. But who's going to step up? Who do you feel should be in charge of having some kind of governing body where every referee that works on the weekends has to go through some kind of certification? To Mike's point, do a test like we do at the high school level. Who do you think that should be?
That's a tough question, right? I think everybody needs to be certified. Those weekend warriors should be certified. It may be something we do annually at the beginning of the year, or it's something we do right before the spring when travel basketball picks up. There is a need. I'm not sure who would want to pick it up. I'm sure if this podcast, maybe there's some local referees that maybe wanted to take the lead on that, and we definitely entertain it. But right now, I don't know who that individual is.
I know, Mike, you talked about the chapters possibly doing. I disagree with you, right? But I think you need the chapter support. But what do you think? Is it chapter or is it individual based? What do you think?
So after our conversation, I'm kind of glad that the mic was messed up because there were points that were touched on. And like I said, I'm always appreciative for feedback. Somebody talked to me about feedback and they're like, man, that's negative feedback. There's no such thing as negative feedback, right? Feedback is just that feedback. You take what you need to take and then get rid of the rest. And so there were definitely some great points that we talked on. I've already been talking with my owner about scaling back on some of my other projects within the gym because of the need of areas of improvement with San Antonio basketball, right? How can we make the tournaments better? Hey, teams need to be verified, right? Coaches need to be able to pass background checks. We're running sanctioned events. What else can we do? Hey, referee certifications. Hey, set up times, 2-month situation, be able to pass this test, boom, earn your certification. There are veterans that are willing to give back. Reggie Eggins, right? Kenny Belafonte, right? Henry Mondragon from the chapter, Marvin Cobb from the chapter, Mark Fear, that I know if I initiate this and hey Mark, I need this from you, what space can you help in? I know that you'll be open to it, right? There are guys that are out there that are willing to make it better. The reason we don't have the vets coming out anymore is it's not because of pay. Basketball is not fun anymore. Once upon a time, there used to be quality basketball in the city, right? To where there weren't a million tournaments every dang time you turn your head. So the guys look forward to coming and working those tournaments and seeing basketball. But because there is an issue in the city with our youth basketball, because it is watered down, because everybody that wakes up and decides they want to run a tournament and thinks that they can, it's not the same. And because it's not the same, the vets don't want to be around it. Like my guru, for those of you that don't know, I've said it on my podcast with Super Sports Media. Those of you that don't know, I grew up playing for Booman, right? And so to be able to walk alongside and be able to call him and get advice and guidance, he said something that was so powerful. The community is lost right now. And he hit the nail on the head. The community is lost because everybody's trying to get their own pennies. And the greater good is the city. And so my mission is getting everybody together. You know what I'm saying? Getting it back to where it needs to be, because there is talent in the city of San Antonio. But if we continue to stay divided and fighting amongst each other, it's never going to be exposed. And so there's definitely conversations that are being held amongst tournament directors, to better the tournaments, amongst higher level officials to better the officiating components, training aspects, I think the chapter needs to be used for the training component. Hey, let's do this. Let's get this done. It's already been started. We actually had a very successful training session with one of my last leagues that we ran at the Sportsplex. But as far as the certification piece, that is going to take the individual vets to come out and help with that because they do want to give back and then providing an environment for them to do so. So that was actually something good that you talked on last one, Mark.
Yeah, and some listeners, when I put out that little snippet, they were like, wait, referees are not certified? Like, a lot of people didn't know that. They're like, they can actually go work? And I'm like, yeah. So it was good to put that out there. And it's also nice to hear that you guys are trying to figure out ways to do it. It's not easy. Like, you need a lot of time. You need a lot of individuals. It can't just be like, hey, come to this class for an hour and now you're certified. I mean, the training for the chapter takes, 6 to 8 weeks. So yeah, we got to carve out some time to do it. Just listening to you, Mike, what I thought about is when Mac was up here at the factory, he had about a pool of 15 to 25 referees. This was not a certification. This was referees just coming in. And Mac, it would hold everybody accountable. We're talking plays. People would come in early before their games. We're just talking. At some point, we had 12 referees when they were interchanging out and all talking smack to each other, but really growing and holding each other accountable. I don't see that anymore. I talked about it on our previous podcast was the referee will, some of them just leave when their game's over. The other ones just come in. Hey, how you doing? We're out. We don't even talk. We don't communicate. And it's kind of how it's changed today, right? We talk about kids texting each other. I think it's more with adults that just don't have conversations. I would love to do, if I'm going into work one of your tournaments, I want to know what happened the game before. Like, yo, what's going on? Y'all, we had a coach that blew up 2 games. Mark had to kick him out, or Mike had to come over and talk to him. All right, good to know. All right, so then now I know going into that game, I just think that's lost. And you touched on it, Mike, the passion. And I have a referee academy that I do, and that's the main focus. This is just getting referees more passionate about officiating, man. I just don't see it anymore. So yeah, it's good stuff. I think you guys are both on board with the certification. Listeners, it's out there. Is it going to take some time? Yes. Is it going to happen tomorrow? No. But it's in the talk. So look out for that space. The city is trying its best to get referees certified and get the product a lot better on the floor. So good stuff. Now let's dive into tournaments. I got some tournament questions for you. We'll dive into me and my tier systems, man. I just keep talking about tier systems for referees and for teams. And again, me being from Europe, that's what we did in basketball and soccer. I know how successful it was there. I get it. Europe is not the same as America, but I still think we can take some things from there and use them. But this is a loaded question, and I'll start with you, Mike. How can you avoid blowouts in your tournaments? I know it's not easy, but are there things that you try to do on the back end to try and vet teams and avoid those type of blowouts and have highly competitive games?
To answer that question, Mark, man, that's a hell of a question, Mark Vera, right? And here's the truth of the matter. I always want to be as truthful as I possibly can. We started a series at the Sportsplex. It's called the South Texas Power Invitational. And with that invitational, that's not something that goes out to all. It is strategic. I list out 16 teams from 5th through 8th grade that I won in each division, 16 teams each division. And then we follow an NCAA format. And the format, when it's all said and done, is that those 4 pools of Final Fours, teams earn the right to be where they are. You get 9 games for that series, 3 in each tournament. And the games are basically telling you where you are, gives me an opportunity to truly rank you and put you where you rightfully so earned and deserve. Now, that's just 6 tournaments out of my year. There's 20 other tournaments that are housed, right? And so just like Mark Ochoa, I'm boots on ground. It's a rare situation that I get a team that I don't know. Of course, there's new teams that pop up all the time. And so what I do is I ask questions like, hey, how many tournaments have you played? Which tournament did you play? Who did you play? Those are pretty much my main questions because I want to know who you played, because typically if you played somewhere in the city, I'm going to know who you played, and typically how you did against that, I'll be able to base it. Now, do I do my best to avoid that blowout situation? Absolutely. Now, I know I'm going to ruffle some feathers, but here's what I got to say to what I'm getting ready to state. If the shoe fits, wear it. The unfortunate part about blowouts, I think Mark Ochoa will agree to this, there are some coaches that the scoreboard and those rings and cool zombie awards that we give out matter. And so they may have a team that they know doggone well has the capability of playing up and is going to fare well playing up. But at the end of playing up, they might not be 3-0. So they might not get that cool award at the end of it all. So they'll stay in their grade level division knowing that they're going to win. And unfortunately, they don't have the capacity to turn away teams, to turn away business, because I lost 5 teams because I wouldn't let this team that I knew was going to beat everybody play their grade level, and they pulled their organization. And so that's a battle that we face. Another battle is a team that does play up, right? Because they didn't want it, they didn't care about the prize, and playing up might have got them an average of a 10 to 20 point loss each game. Trust me when I say, and coaches will vouch and verify, hey, coach, you're going to kill everybody. You want to go ahead and play up? There are some that, okay, Mike, thanks for the heads up, and will happily do it. Shout out to Chris Hicks. Shout out to Ray Briggs. Shout out to Lorenzo Smith, Robert Bell, D1 over there with Smoke Chasers. There are definitely groups out there that don't care about the scoreboard, don't care about the prizes. But there are several that they'd rather stay grade level versus going to get trigger, and it causes those situations. Like I said, I'm not in the capacity to tell my owner why I lost 5 teams because I wouldn't play grade level, which is what they wanted to play.
You being honest, I appreciate that, and I think it's just a culture thing in the city. I just believe there's a lot of teams which hurt. And to your point, they'll do that. They want to win trophies, they want to win rings, and they will do that. They will pull their entire organization. I remember I used to do tournaments where it was like no zone, those things. And man, people were like, you gonna tell me how to run my organization? I'm like, okay. To your point, you're saying the same thing, right? This division is not going to be good for you. Let's go ahead and play up. Now, some that do that, great. They're all about development. And there's some like, nah, we're good. Because I think that's a culture thing with their parents, charging them money and expectations to win. I think that's more in the
Yeah.
organization. We got to change the culture of San Antonio. Like, hey, man, it ain't about wins and losses. Yeah, okay. Here's something that I think about because I ran an organization would be like, hey, parents, we're going to play up this weekend. We may not win a game. Just letting you know, right? We're going to play up and then maybe we're more successful. If you can kind of dabble in both and tell your parents exactly what you got going on, I think that would be better. But I agree with you, Mike. I think a lot of people are chasing these awards, and it hurts everybody. Tournament runners, it hurts the competition, it hurts everybody in the tournament. So yeah, Mark, I'm gonna talk about a tier system with you, and I'll kind of lay it out and see if this is something. It's a lot of work, but see if it's something possible. Right? Would be let's say you have 3 entry level tier systems. I'll keep it super simple. We got a gold, we got a silver, and we have a bronze. Those are your 3 divisions, and then a team comes from CYO 9-0. They're doing their thing over there, right? And then there's this massive gap from CYO to select basketball, and they don't know where to go. I get calls all the time from coaches like, "Hey, we're kind of dominating over here, Mark," or I may train their kid, and they're like, "Yeah, what's next?" I'm like, "That's a problem, right? There's a big space, and you jump right into a full court athletic tournament or Alamo State Sport, and you get drugged by 30, and you're like, okay, now the parents are like, what happened? We just won 9 in a row, and then they don't know what's going on. What I'm saying is that could there be an entry level tier system, your bronze division, and then you have your silver division that's kind of maybe have moved from the bronze. They've got a couple years under their belt, or a gold team that's maybe lost some players, or they're just struggling. They need to be moved down. So it's kind of like a relegation promotion type system like they do in the soccer. Is that something that you think could happen, or is that just way too much work and the city you don't think would be behind it?
I'll tell you, it's possible, but it's going to take a lot of work, right? It's going to take a great deal of communication between the tournament directors, which we do have an open line. Like I said, on any given weekend or day, I could call up Rick Perales, I could call up Devin Judkins, Eugenio, and and talk to them. It can be done, but it would take a great deal of work, and it would take years to get there. The difficulty that we run into is, maybe placing these teams in tiers, or some of these organizations. They may come to me and be like, "Hey, Mark, I need my team to play this weekend. I got 4 teams that need to play on Saturday only." So that kind of handcuffs us on tournament directors on how we place teams in a division. I might have a stronger division on Sunday, but when a coach tells me, "Hey, Mark, I have to play on Saturday and be done by 6 p.m." It's kind of hard placing those teams in those tiers. Like you said, with your no zone, I think I was maybe helped on one of those years ago, that coaches don't want to be told where their team should be placed, And it's one of those. I can tell you, when I brought my Sun Devils out from recreational to tournament ball, we did take our lumps. We took the 30-point losses, but it was like you said, there's a gap between the recreational to the tournament select ball. Are there tournaments out there that is a fit in between? Yeah, there is. I get told like, "Hey, Mark, I may send out a flyer to somebody and like, hey, we're not ready for that," and they may be playing a smaller local tournament. It may be a single court facility, but they're out there. They're out there, but to get it across the city, I think we'd have to table it with all tournament directors. It would be maybe some of those lower tier tournaments all the way to the top tier tournaments coming together. But a plan would have to be put together, and we'd have to get these coaches and organizations to buy into it and accept that feedback. Hey, this is where your team is if we want to grow as a city.
Yeah, I appreciate you being open to it. It's tough. I mean, it is going to take a lot of time. And I also I said this on the last podcast. You guys are going to have to be willing to take different tiers each weekend, right? It may be like, hey, Mark, you got the silver one this weekend, and Mike, you got to take the bronze. And I think there's a market for it. The problem is I don't. Nobody wants bad basketball in their gym every weekend. Let's be real. I would not want to have the bronze division at the factory every weekend, and the score is 12-8. It's a competitive game, but it's not good basketball. So you'd have to kind of share it around the city, and tournament directors got to work together. And you want to add something, Mike?
I do. So, this podcast is information. So I want to provide some information. So Mark Ochoa and the Sportsplex are in communication. Also in communication with us too is Rick Perales of Premier Athletics and Devin Judkins of Road to Nationals. Eugene Esqueda, Venom Basketball. We've got 5 director heads that are in very, very, very healthy communication right now. So I want to make sure that the city does know there are communications that are being held. The tournament gig is going to take work. But what I definitely want to say, and I want to give everybody the hope on, is that we are working on it. That tier system you're talking about, Mark. After we talked the last time, I went through all of my tournaments and I started putting all the champions in second places. And I started labeling them, right? Put them in their divisions. Then I put my third places and my fourth places, right? Those are your 0 and 3s, your 1 and 2s. Then I started trying to dig into full court athletics. And so it's going to take time to put this list together and share it with the guys. And so the thing about it is, once those major tournament heads come together, hey, let's not fight each other. Hey, let's work together here. Now, when full court athletics gets their crop of teams, the Sportsplex gets their crop of teams. Now we can look at that list, and now we can tell the coaches to where, hey, you got to play here. Because what's going to end up happening right now, we don't have the capacity to tell that organization no, because we're going to lose 8 teams that text you on a Tuesday morning for the tournament that weekend with, Mark knows what I'm talking about, with requests. Like, dude, I'm getting ready to publish this thing. Like, how do you hit me with this, right? Well, we got to take care of them. But when the major tournament heads come together and there's only those places to play in town, now we take the power back. They're going to have no choice because their availability is limited now. So like Mark Ochoa said, it is going to take some time, but trust me, the work is about to be put in to make it happen, because there is an issue, but there is definitely an opportunity to resolve it. So just everybody be patient, understand that we are working, and it is coming.
Yeah, love it. When you guys were talking, I wrote this down, just like some solutions that we got going on. I mean, I'm being real. Fees are not going down. They're going up. And that's based on your expenses. So I'm putting that out there, right? People that are asking, like, is it going to be cheaper at the door? Entry fees going to be cheaper? No, they're not. Let's just be real. Any coach listening, any fan, it is what it is based on everything we talked about. Tournament director is going to work really hard on getting a certified or possible tier system for referees. Also, maybe look into a tier system for teams. It's going to be a lot of work, but these are the things that if we can come together, try to figure it out. Certified teams, and they have to be vetted by everybody. Try to avoid blowouts. I know that's not easy. And we talked about why the blowouts are, and trying to change the culture and having honest conversations with organizations. And then the directors working closely together for consistency. Those, and it's funny because every podcast we've talked about solutions, they're all very, very doable. You look at me like, okay, there's like 4 or 5 things here that if we do that, the city can get in a better space. So I think those are good solutions we talked about, which is really good. And we'll just kind of see where it goes. Let's end on a few Q&As that we got from some listeners. So I'll start with you, Mark. Do you guys have a shared blacklist on coaches, teams, or even possibly a fan? Do y'all have that?
Definitely, like I said, the communications, there's no formal document, but we do steadily talk to each other and say, hey, this team, you got to watch out for them. There may been a fan that was out of context that weekend. There's a team that no show, or definitely teams that are may have tried to slip out of payment that have a balance. So those there's no official blacklist, but there's a text thread of tournament directors where we go back and forth and say, hey, I'll be on the lookout for this, or this individual this team is on ice for 6 months of full court athletics. So no formal document, but there is a informal blacklist.
Okay, good. And I just hope other tournament directors stay true to that, because myself and Tom Brown had one, and Tom, Tom was like, "Hey, I heard you had this team at your gym this week." No, Tom, I did. Okay, that's the military in him, right? But Tom was big on that, man. He was big about, if you owe me money or you had some issues at my tournament, you ain't gonna play nowhere in the city, and we have to. That's the right thing to do. So I appreciate you guys having that open communication. Love it. Next question for you, Mike, is how do you attract teams from outside San Antonio coming to your events?
So there's two parts that I do. The first part is marketing, right? You get in other cities' groups, right? And just like San Antonio has their 210 basketball and pages, you got to get into Houston groups and Austin groups and the Dallas groups, and you got to put the information out there. That's the easy way. I happen to have call it cheat code. I happen to have an organization that I run and I coach it, and it's called Follow Through. And we have some teams that are able to compete out of town. And so I go to other events and I have conversations and communications with other tournament directors. So, hey, I'm bringing my 4 teams. Are you okay with? And I make sure that I get their blessing. That way they don't think I'm coming in their backyard being sneaky or shady. But once we play against teams, we have conversations, and boom, one thing leads to the next. And that's another way that I do it. I have a great relationship with Austin, but those are the two things that I do: marketing and just going and playing in out of town events.
Okay, love it. Last question for you both, and then we're gonna dive into some quick hits. I forgot to do on the last podcast. Sorry, Taylor and Marco, but we're gonna let you guys go some quick hitters at the end. The last question is, and you can say however you want, but what are your future plans, ideas to improve your events? And I kind of talked on some solutions, but if I missed anything or anything that's kind of floating around in your head after doing the redo on the podcast, which has been good, we've had more time to kind of think about some things. Mike, I'll start with you, and Mark, you can close us out.
So future plans to make our events better. It takes time for change. And so some things that I've already started doing, as you know, all of our events are sanctioned and governed by the National Travel Basketball Association, right? That's who ensures our events. That's piece number 1. Piece number 2, verification for teams, background checks for coaches, right? That's improvement number 2. That's coming. Something that we've already started doing, using the NFHS rules, National Federation of High School Basketball, to where we're giving teams quarters, simulated real games of what these middle schoolers and what these high schoolers are going to see, making it as close to real basketball as we possibly can. With the amount of money that we're charging, trying to give them that real simulation to where they feel like, you know what, I got my money's worth. So making those changes to my quarters and my format was one of the changes for the betterment. And then the final piece for us is the marketing aspect. I want to give a shout out to Devin. Devin enrolled in Nationals, does a phenomenal and an amazing job of marketing. You walk in any one of their gyms, he's got banners, he's got layouts with the QR code that's got all the events. You go scan that QR code, boom, you already got the next event right there on the money. And so the marketing piece for us is where we're looking at bettering our events. So those are the 2 pieces of improvement for us. And then, of course, the referee state, because at the end of the day, referees control the temperature of a tournament. I don't care what anybody says. The referees on that court are going to control that temperature of your tournament.
Appreciate it, Mike, for touching on that. Good stuff. Mark, you want to add to anything?
One thing that wasn't mentioned, like the last podcast we had difficulties with, was the tournament scene in San Antonio is the pretty much Wild Wild West. I think that was used maybe 2 or 3 times. Getting these teams certified, all right? Like you said, getting these coaches certified, referees certified, anybody working around kids. I think that's an improvement I think we could do that fairly quick next year. Is getting all parties certified, being in and around kids. Taking the feedback that these parents, these coaches give us, and just tweaking a few things. We've heard, full court has heard this stuff. Is there an athletic trainer here? Well, last year we went to getting athletic trainers at most sites, so we are investing the money back. They're asking for videographers. We're getting those. We're putting them in the gym. Some of the players are getting highlighted. So therefore, just being able to take that feedback that these parents, coaches, the community is asking for, and make these subtle changes. So change takes a while, change management, keeping that in place. But I think we're definitely in the right space to make these improvements.
Love it. Thanks you both for doing that. Let's close on some quick hitters. First one, Mark, you go first. Mike on the back end. 1 day versus 2 day.
3 in 1 day. Get them in, get them out.
All right. Zone versus man.
Lower level grassroots, man, you got to teach the basics, got to teach the fundamentals. As you get older, because, if you watch high school basketball, you watch college basketball, and even NBA, zone is used,
Agreed. Okay. Halves versus quarters.
Quarters all day.
Okay. Running clock versus stop clock.
5th grade and below, running clock. 6th grade and above, stop clock until the lead's out of control.
I'm just trying to get you to make a decision, Mike. You on both ends. All right, you can't go either on this one. All right, Mike. A coach with or without a backpack when they're coaching.
Hey man, I feel like you're taking a shot at me right now, dog.
No,
You're taking a shot.
there's
With,
a lot of people out there, man. Do you wear a backpack?
with. Yes, but let me.
Oh,
Can I get my reason why? Can I get my reason why I wear my backpack?
No. Well, go ahead. I may edit it. I may take it out. We'll see.
That's my stress relief.
Okay. You know,
During
you
the
can get a
game,
stress ball or a towel, but you like the
that's my
backpack.
stress relief.
All right,
I like
got
the
you.
backpack.
Okay, cool. All right, got you. Well, I don't think other people do that. I don't know. They'd be pulling out their clipboard or something like that from the back. All right, last one. Super pool or tournament style?
Tournament style.
Okay.
Tournament style. I love three-way tie divisions, head-to-head tie divisions. I love those. It makes you feel like you did your job.
All right, awesome. Well, fellas, I appreciate you jumping back on. I asked both of you, like, yeah, let's jump back on. That shows me and tells everybody how much you two are invested in the city, in the tournament space. Your kid just had ACL surgery in Corpus. You back on the road. Here we are trying to get this stuff done. And it's all about information, getting it out, educating people, and trying to help San Antonio. You both definitely fall under that category. So I appreciate you both, again, jumping back on, sharing your wealth. I think the tournament space is headed in the right direction. And again, we'll just keep trying to improve the city. I think we've got some really good solutions in place. And let's just see where it goes. I appreciate you both. Take care, and we'll be talking soon.
Well, thank you.
Bless you.
Thank you for listening to the Dropping Dimes podcast. Make sure to go follow us on IG at Dropping Dimes Pod. Remember, each Friday we'll be dropping a new episode, so hit the follow and bell notification buttons to never miss any content. Let's get better together. We out.
Oh,